do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba, Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. It's like I don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Sir, this one says, now that the retards are out of the White House, everyone can say retard again, with pride.
Why don't we get that down so they can get them going right now?
This one says white people are now allowed to say the N-word once a month, just to really get one out of the chamber. And it must be whispered with a black friend nearby.
That's a big one. We're opening up N-word.
This is a good one, sir. Basically says if men have to put their height on the dating apps, women should have to put their weight. That's for quote-unquote equality. She wants to know if he can reach the top of the fridge. He should want to know if she's going to clean out the fridge. It's called the Rosie O'Donnell Fat Pig Act.
That's a big one.
Okay, this one says the LGBTQIA plus 2- question mark / umlaut community is now just going to be called the everything but straight people list. It's really just a time saver.
Well, we're going to try and get it done as quickly as possible.
China will now be called China America.
If China didn't approve it, we could put tariffs on China.
When we take over Greenland, it will now be called Red, White, and Blue Land.
Greenland is a wonderful place. We need it for international security. People have wanted to do this for years. What's this one?
This says, we are bringing back the real gun emoji, getting rid of that weak Democrat woke water pistol.
We have to do what's right.
Oh, this one's interesting, sir. It says all the fat, bald feminists with 40 cats who hate men, they will now be put in the front lines during any war. They don't have family or kids, just cats, as I said, so let's put them to work.
And that's the equivalent, almost the equivalent of a tariff. And they're tough.
This one says if a woman divorces you and takes half your stuff, she's required to have sex with you half the time. Fair is fair, sir.
If we create that value, why aren't we entitled to like half? Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, guys.
Hey, Skiba News Nation family. Welcome to episode 112 of Skiba News Nation, your weekly source for the latest news, controversial topics, conspiracies, forgotten history, and so much more. I'm your host, Jeremiah Skiba, and today we're going to be talking about today's overwhelming media, AI healthcare, the truth behind Kendrick Lamar's Superbowl performance, black voters turning on the left, Rush Limbaugh predicts today, Dark Oxygen, an all-new Opus Corner, and for History's Mysteries, we'll be talking about the weird history of Havana Syndrome, what is it, what are the symptoms, and Volume 11 of Please Excuse My Sense of Humor. As always, I'd like to introduce my great insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Grant. Welcome, Jake.
Oh, man. That was funny. Oh, man.
What was your favorite executive order?
Oh, let's see. I mean, I did laugh at the dating app thing where men had to put their height and weight, but there were ones that were even funnier. It's just, man, loved it.
Awesome, man. Well, you got some good current news for me today?
Yes, we do.
All right, let's dive in.
All right, guys. Well, we're back here at Skiba News Nation, our regularly scheduled programming, and we had a little bit of a hiatus there because, of course, we were attending the celebration of life for Sheila Skiba, and it was really a beautiful moment of just saying goodbye to a warrior woman of faith that is a shining example, and the saying that behind every great man is a great woman doesn't fall flat, and so it was just a very beautiful time. And so that's why we didn't have Skiba News Nation news last week. And so all these things have been really building up in the headlines. There's so many things. You can definitely tell that either Donald Trump or at least his appointees and advisors have read The Art of Warfare by Shinzo. And in that you learn that you can overwhelm the enemy through sheer number and overwhelming force just by never relenting. And you're absolutely seeing that. Well over 300 plus executive orders, more being added by the day. It's just overwhelming force. And so I had to really sit back and think to myself, how do I present a message of not peace and safety, in terms of, like it's all good and we're just going to focus on, something cool and interesting, without dropping some of these topics that are happening in the world. And so whenever I, explain that, it's because oftentimes you can have so many topics that you lose sight of the most important ones. And so I had to really boil down, what do I want to even share with you guys? Because I'm being overwhelmed myself. I don't even know all of the crazy impacts and reverberating implications of the Donald Trump takeover of just destroying the left as we know it. And so hopefully you guys can see the value in some of the things that I'm sharing today. And I've realized whenever somebody wants to tell you something, and they start with what really is important first, oftentimes you can kind of see that they're going to, lay it all out there. Everything's going to be plain, but it's really the things that they mentioned first that is kind of what gets covered in the avalanche of information later on. And so let's watch this video, which can help us understand how overwhelming media today is, and perhaps we can figure out what to focus in on in our investigation. Check this out. All right, bear with me. I think I clipped the wrong video. One second. What is the message there, right? Is it really worth your attention? Man, we really have to ask ourselves that in this time, that it's more important than ever to be watchmen on the wall, because the implications that are going out across the world and the things that are getting ruffled that are going to probably be affecting you and me very soon, we don't want to lose sight. And so I wanted to start with what the administration was really championing the first 100 days of office, and perhaps, we could lose sight of how this will very quickly be affecting our life. And I'll get into more of why after the video.
This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. This is, to me, a very big thing. $500 billion Stargate project. I think it's going to be something that's very special. It'll lead to something that could be the biggest of all.
President Trump just moments ago here at the White House announcing this new project.
He said it, the biggest of all. So maybe that's how we need to focus our attention, with what we've been told is the most important.
For infrastructure inside the U.S. for artificial intelligence, and 3 men are teaming up with the president in this public-private partnership, and that is Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, Larry Ellison, Oracle founder, chairman of the board and chief technology officer, and Masayoshi Son, SoftBank chairman and CEO. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
It's exciting. I heard what you made, the comments you made inside. First, let me talk to you, Sam, about what this means for AI in the future for the U.S. investment here.
This means we can create AI and AGI in the United States of America. Wouldn't have been obvious that this was possible. I think if a different president it might not have been possible, but we are thrilled to get to do this, and I think it'll be great for Americans, great for the whole world.
And Masa, you said that this is the golden age. You used President Trump's phrase. Why is it this administration that can do it, do you think?
Because we can make deal happen. You know, it's all energized. Approval come much faster, much bigger, and more meaningful way.
Larry, you talked about what can come out of this as far as healthcare and other things. People are starting to get their head around AI, but not fully.
Well, when you go to the hospital these days, if you're using a modern system, using a modern system, the doctor will get a little note written by AI describing what the purpose of the appointment, and then that note will have your latest lab tests and your so the doctor's prepared when they meet with the patient. The AI will actually listen to the conversation between the doctor and the patient and make recommendations and improve the likelihood that the patient's going to get a high quality of care. It's easier for the doctor, it's better outcomes for the patient. It's really a revolution in medicine, but it's a revolution in many other industries as well. Medicine just touches us all.
Sam, for the people who are concerned about AI on either the work and job front or just it's scary, what do you say to them that there are rails to make sure that it doesn't go out of bounds?
Yeah, there are hundreds of millions of people using these tools today. It'll go to billions. People are using it and really dependent on it for all sorts of great things in their lives. Like any new technology, we do have to put some rails on it. You can imagine ways it could go wrong, but if you look at the safety record, what we've been able to ship so far, what I think we'll be able to do in the future, the benefits of this tremendously outweigh the downsides. We have to be responsible how we do this. We have to build it carefully. But I think people are really good and people will do, on balance, incredible things with this technology. The scale of this investment obviously is huge. And what I think that says about the likely progress of the technology, at least what all of us believe, is correspondingly huge. But I have enormous faith we'll figure it out.
And the first one in Texas?
First one in Texas. Already going.
Yes.
And that's a big project. Masa, I want to ask you about money and public-private partnerships. Before President Biden left in his farewell address, he expressed concern or warnings over an oligarchy, the fact that guys with a lot of money would have a lot of influence on policy. You guys obviously have a lot of money, but you're putting it together with President Trump. How do you respond to that criticism about big money and its influence in U.S. government?
Well, for the better humanity of our future, we need big capital to invest into the project. You know, we cannot do it with the small money. We have to do the big investment for the good of humanity.
And it creates jobs.
Yeah, create lots of jobs.
Larry, why on this day one do you think you decided to do this? I assume you've been working on it for a long time.
We have been working on it for a long time. The first data centers are actually under construction in Texas already, and we'll be turning them over to Sam to start training their next model. The data center we already built, it was the largest computer ever built. The data center we're building will surpass it and be the largest computer ever built, which enables this AI, which will allow personalized medicine. This is going to touch all of us. Yes, it takes a huge investment, but the result of the investment will be cancers, personalized medicine, where we never again run into a problem like before, because we get an early warning. We know when COVID starts, when there are a handful of patients, rather than having to wait until it's become an epidemic and very difficult to control. This is a very large investment that affects all of humanity.
Can I ask the three of you just really quickly to get a sense of where you see the economy? There seems to be this optimism, or like the yoke is being released as far as regulation and business to flourish. Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment? How do you see it?
I think so.
This is the beginning of golden age. You know, America will be great again.
You're using the president's words.
Yes.
He's got
Yes.
you. You said you were going to invest, $100 billion. He said come back with $200 billion.
The thing about Musk is you can always negotiate him up.
You can always get him up. Now you're $500 billion.
Yes.
And you think more's coming.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you for standing
very
out in the
much.
cold. We look forward to seeing what you all produce. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As we hear from the mouth of these execs that are being put in charge of really what will define the golden age of America, from their mouths themselves, this is the biggest deal. This is the story to pay attention to. And just recently, Sam Altman has come out on X talking about how AGI, artificial general intelligence, is within a year from full realization. And what we've been playing with now with ChatGPT and these lesser video, content creating AIs is just piddles compared to what AGI will be, guys. And so that's really coming hard and fast, and it's going to influence and affect the whole world, and it's going to affect your day-to-day life in a way that you can't even comprehend. We are at the cusp of something huge, something so earth-shattering, changing, that we don't even know what's going to happen. And it's coming very soon.
And I learned this from my decades of working at Yale with the epilepsy foundations, where they use ketogenic diets to stop epileptic seizures. It's one of the most common natural forms of managing epileptic seizures in children. Well, we had parallel studies going on in our lab with epilepsy, preclinical studies of epilepsy, as well as preclinical studies of cancer, but they weren't overlapping. One was done independently of the other until we realized that when we started to calorie restrict some of the animals that we had with tumors, we were seeing dramatic reduction of tumor growth. And then we decided to use because Warburg said clearly that these tumor cells are dependent on a very poor fermentation, which is energy without oxygen. And he said that, he was repeated. That's one of the interesting things about cancer cells. They can grow without oxygen. And that oxygen comes from fermentation. It's an ancient way of getting energy. This is how all organisms existed on the planet before oxygen came into the atmosphere 2.5 billion years ago. That we were an anoxic environment on this planet for eons. But the cancer cell, interestingly enough, can live without oxygen. So I said, Warburg said, well, what are they using? Well, they ferment. Well, what do they ferment? They ferment the sugar glucose, and they produce a waste product of lactic acid. So what we did, when we were doing our epilepsy work, we were noticing that if we restricted glucose in children or in our preclinical models, we would get management of seizures. But, it turned out that you'd say, well, then you have to do water-only fasting and all this. Well, this is the way the ketogenic diet started in 1921 at Mayo Clinic. They said, well, children or people with epilepsy, if they stop eating and just drink water, the seizures would go away. But this is not a long-term solution to the problem. So they developed a ketogenic diet in 1921 for epilepsy. And it was lowering blood sugar and elevating ketones. And no one to this day really understands how that's blocking epileptic seizures. But for cancer, it becomes very, very clear. The tumor cell can't live without the glucose. And because
I wanted to go ahead and touch on some other current events. Recently, apparently Philly won the Super Bowl. Hey. Let's check out how they celebrated. Let's have a Super Bowl bonfire. Yeah.
That's some dumbass.
with that shown, you can't also look me in the face and say, Jake, I'm so excited to live in the city at a time such as this. It is the perfect time to meet friends and family that just, we go out into the street and set bonfires to the things we love the most just to show our enthusiasm. So it's just so funny to see that. And then, guys, take it as a word of caution. The cities are a place that things can go south very quickly for even apparently positive things. Just wait till hell breaks loose, right? So did you check out the Super Bowl, Jeremiah?
I watched the Taylor Swift booze and I didn't watch the game, but I know I was trying to say, I guess my mic was off, but like you could tell people that that's a BLM protest and they would probably believe it. You could tell them that it's like a protest and they would believe that it's really that. And I heard they even grease down the light poles in Philly every time they have a big sporting win, because they will legit climb the street poles. They're like crazy in a good way, I guess, but kind of in a bad way.
I took a nap.
Wow. Yeah, I think I was not even paying attention. I think later in the day I was like, oh yeah, it's Super Bowl. I love to tell this joke every year, is that back in the ancient days, people used to worship Baal, right? The god that had sacrifices done to him, right? Well, today people worship the gods of football and baseball and basketball. So, oh man. All right. I know you guys have heard that joke before because I love telling it. Let's hit up this next video, which is Kendrick Lamar gave the halftime show, which may have been very confusing to a lot of people, but I have somebody's YouTube channel breaking it down here, and he talks about some very interesting imagery and symbolism in the performance of Kendrick Lamar during this year's halftime show. Check this out.
Is currently trending after his Super Bowl performance, and for good reason. Ever since it was announced back in September that Kendrick was going to perform, the hype has been real. And now it finally happened and people can't stop talking about it. But here's the thing, most people only saw what was on the surface. What they missed was the deeper message Kendrick was sending. This performance wasn't just about entertainment. It was filled with subliminals, symbolism, and a statement that went way beyond the music. So in this video, we're breaking it all down. What Kendrick was really trying to communicate, and why this might be one of the most important Super Bowl performances we've ever seen. Let's start. It almost felt like a full circle moment. Kendrick, the hometown hero, using his Super Bowl performance to take aim at an industry rival, and then Serena, who grew up in Compton, casually hitting the crip walk to the same song right there on national television. Aside from that, we have Kendrick conveniently turning into the camera as soon as he said, "Say Drake, I hear you like him young. Better not go to Cell Block 1." Now that, I don't think there's anything particularly deep about that, but if you guys seen the look on this guy's face when he says that, I ain't really gonna say anything. Just look at this guy's face, bruh. This face has hate a million times written all over it, okay? Now that aside, let's actually go over the real shit now, okay? And this is something you're probably only gonna hear here because nobody breaks this down like me. So how about drop a like on this video for your boy. So most people obviously paid attention to those surface level things like the A-Chain, Serena, and all that. Those things aside, this wasn't just a performance. This so-called performance, okay, this was actually a political statement. The show opened with none other than legendary actor Samuel L. Jackson introducing Kendrick Lamar. But this wasn't just an introduction. Samuel L. Jackson was dressed as Uncle Sam, the well-known symbol which is supposed to represent the U.S. government. So he's a physical embodiment of the government, okay? And that embodies authority, control, which is essentially the same system that Kendrick has been fighting for the entirety of his career, but most importantly of all, life. Kendrick Lamar has spent his entire career being critical of the systems in America that have contributed to so much of the pain Black America has faced. He's never shied away from addressing oppression, economic disparity, and systematic racism in his music. In fact, he dedicated an entire album to these themes in 2015 called To Pimp a Butterfly. One of the most striking examples of this is Wesley's Theory, the very first song on the album where Kendrick raps, "Anything to see, my name is Uncle Sam, I'm your dog, motherfucker, you can't live at the mall, I know you're kind, that's why I'm kind, don't have receipts, oh man, that's fine, pay me later, wear those gators, cliche, then say F your haters. Now this particular song is about the financial traps that have kept black Americans stuck in a cycle of debt and economic struggle. Kendrick paints a picture of the US government personified as Uncle Sam, luring young black men into a false sense of financial freedom, encouraging them to overspend, indulge in materialism, and accumulate debt, all while knowing that the system is designed to keep them from ever truly attaining wealth. Simply put, it's a trap. And Kendrick, being as intentional as he is, wasn't just referencing the song for nostalgia. His decision to have Samuel L. Jackson, dressed as Uncle Sam, introduce his Super Bowl performance was a callback to this very idea, reminding us that financial literacy, systematic racism, and the exploitation of black culture are still very relevant conversations today. Wesley's theory is a direct reference to actor Wesley Snipes, who famously went to prison for tax evasion. Kendrick used Snipes' situation as a metaphor for how the system sets up black artists, athletes, and entertainers to fail financially. Wesley Snipes was once one of the biggest actors in Hollywood, but after failing to pay millions in taxes, the American government came down on him hard. While tax evasion is a crime regardless of who commits it, Kendrick's point is that black celebrities are often placed in a financial trap, encouraged to spend recklessly, not given the tools for financial literacy, and then penalized harshly when they make mistakes. Kendrick's message in Wesley's theory is that the system doesn't just allow black success, it profits off of black success while making sure that the wealth never truly stays within the community. The government gives opportunities, loans, and access to luxury, but then punishes those who don't navigate the system correctly. It's a cycle, one that's intentionally designed to keep black people chasing wealth without ever achieving true financial independence. And when you bring this back to the Super Bowl performance, the symbolism becomes even clearer. Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam wasn't just a random creative choice, it was a statement. Kendrick was that the same oppressive forces he's been rapping about for years are still at play, even on one of America's biggest stages while he's on that stage. Essentially, Kendrick is saying the same forces that allowed me to get on the stage, the ones that helped me get to my success and wealth, are the same forces still controlling the game while I'm performing on this stage. It's a paradox. Kendrick is saying that, hey, I know that I'm benefiting from the system, but he's also a product of the system's constraints. Alright, we're not playing that entire clip, man, because they're trying to get money. And that's why Samuel L. Jackson, representing the US government, injects himself into the performance by saying, too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. This moment isn't just about performance theatrics. It's a direct critique of how black expression is often policed and commodified. It's the system allowing Kendrick to exist, but only under certain conditions. The message is clear. Be successful, but not too successful. Speak out, but not too loud. Stay in line, play the game, and don't disrupt the system that benefits you. Now, the game he's referring to is the entertainment industry itself. The same industry that uplifts, but of course exploits black artists at the same time. It's the idea that as long as you're making money for the system, you're welcome. But the moment you challenge it too much, you become a problem. Kendrick has played this game masterfully throughout his career. He's managed to critique the system while still thriving within it. But at the Super Bowl, one of the biggest stages in America, he's making it clear. I know exactly what this is, and I know exactly how much freedom I actually have. Now, this is where Drake comes into the picture. Drake is a Canadian guy who, unlike Kendrick, has never been positioned as a revolutionary or a disruptor. He plays the game effortlessly, adapting to every trend, every industry shift, and every cultural moment without ever truly challenging the system. The battle between Kendrick and Drake isn't just about music or two rappers going at each other. It represents something bigger. It's yin versus yang, good versus evil, authenticity versus industry manipulation. Kendrick is the artist who constantly critiques the system, calling out its flaws and exposing its traps. Drake, on the other hand, is the artist who thrives within the confines of the system. Drake, for a long time, has represented the industry's favorite artist, marketable, accessible, and not so controversial. Kendrick, on the other hand, represents the people's artist, critical, disruptive, and unwilling to conform. Their rivalry has been painted as just another rap beef, but on a deeper level, it's a clash of ideologies. That's really what it is. So when Kendrick takes on the biggest stage in American entertainment and turns it into a statement against the system, it's not just about Drake. It's what he symbolizes. It's Kendrick reminding the world that the industry rewards those who play the game and silence those who question it. And by performing Not Like Us, he made sure that message was loud and clear. Now later on, before Kendrick is about to perform Peekaboo, Samuel L. Jackson delivers the line, "I see you brought your homeboys with you." The old culture cheat code, scorekeeper, deduct one life. This is more than just a random transition. It's a loaded statement. This moment ties directly into the overarching theme of the performance. The battle between playing the game and challenging the system just just enough. I see you brought your homeboys with you. On the surface, it acknowledges Kendrick bringing his team, his culture, and most importantly of all, his people to the stage. But coming from Samuel L. Jackson, who's playing Uncle Sam, the symbol of the US government and the industry's power, it carries a condescending tone. It suggests that Kendrick is leaning on the strength of his roots, his community, and black culture to make an impact. It's almost as if Uncle Sam is saying, oh, so you're using your people, your authenticity, your blackness as a way in?
Spray?
And it's funny because blackness is literally the source of everything in the
And a banana on the
entertainment
head.
industry. Music, style, culture. But when it comes to the image that the industry wants to represent, it's often watered down, controlled, or
Oh shoot, man! I get what he's trying to show us. He's referring symbolically to what Jake and Logan Paul did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when Jake and Logan Paul came out for that big boxing match between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, what was Logan doing?
He was, and he knocked the hat off his brother.
Oh my gosh, man! To this day, I will never forget that when I met Logan Paul face to face, the first thing that he said that came out of his mouth to me was, "Do you like butt sex?" So
I would have been like,
no,
why
Logan
would
Paul?
Why do you want to know? What's it to you? You know?
Yeah.
Do you
Sorry,
like
buddy,
butt
I'm not
sex?
Assad. Yeah, dude. That's and I met him at the Flat Earth conference in Denver. I was actually working on my Flat Earth documentary, What If the Earth is Flat, while he was working on his hit piece that was all like, you know. So anyways, I've met Logan Paul face to face, and I totally see what this guy we're listening to is talking about. So let's get back into some of the things he's sharing.
packaged to be more digestible for mainstream audiences. Hip-hop, R&B, and black culture as a whole have shaped every major movement in music and entertainment. Yet the industry has historically treated black artists as both the foundation and the afterthought. Black artists are expected to innovate, set trends, and define culture. But when they become too outspoken or too disruptive or too unapologetically black, they're met with resistance, and this is that resistance at play. When Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam dismisses Kendrick's authenticity as just a cultural cheat code, it reflects how the industry uses black culture while trying to control who gets to profit from it. So this could be a subtle dig at how the industry exploits black culture, allowing artists to bring their background into the mainstream only when it benefits the system. Also, he's performing peekaboo, so let's talk about the white outfits, okay? Because those white outfits right there is definitely more than just a fashion choice. If you follow Kendrick's career, you know that he doesn't do anything without intention. In a situation like this, there's a strong argument that this was a direct reference to the KKK idea of America. All the dancers dressed in white, moving in unity, while Kendrick performs a song that directly calls out Drake, who's supposed to represent the system. That visual alone is very symbolic. The Ku Klux Klan, also known as the KKK, is known for wearing white robes, representing white supremacy, oppression, and the same systematic racism Kendrick has been speaking out against his entire career. And let's not forget that hip-hop has been calling out America from Ice Cube to Tupac, and now Kendrick is continuing that tradition on one of the biggest stages in America. This could also be a reference to Colin Kaepernick. The NFL has a complicated history with race, from how the Colin Kaepernick situation played out to the way black artists have been selectively allowed to perform on certain stages. And yet Kendrick gets up there and flips the entire thing into a critique of the system itself. It's almost like he's saying, look, I know what country this is, I know how this game is played, and I know exactly where we stand. Now, right before Kendrick is about to perform Not Like Us, Samuel L. Jackson delivers another loaded line.
That's what America wants.
So we're gonna have to cut that short because copyright is beating the ass right now, bro. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what America wants. Nice and calm. You're almost there. Don't miss this. And before he can even finish, Kendrick cuts him off, launching straight into Not Like Us. So this moment wasn't just theatrical. Now this moment wasn't just theatrical. It was symbolic. It was the system quite literally being interrupted. Samuel L. Jackson, still playing the role of Uncle Sam, the government, the establishment, the industry, was essentially telling Kendrick, this is what we want from you, something safe, something that doesn't challenge us. You're almost where we want you. Stay in line and don't ruin it. But Kendrick doesn't let him finish. Instead, he shuts him completely down and jumps straight into Not Like Us, arguably the most rebellious moment of the entire show. And that right there, that's the perfect representation of how America has always tried to police black voices. The government has a history of suppressing outspoken black figures, whether through censorship, blackballing, or outright violence. The entertainment industry has a habit of rewarding black artists only when they play by the rules and punish those who challenge the system. The media often tries to dictate how black artists should behave, expecting them to be nice and calm rather than unapologetic and disruptive, because when other groups of people speak up, it's seen as passion, advocacy, standing up for what's right. But when black people speak up, suddenly it's labeled as aggression, a threat, or something that needs to be controlled. But Kendrick isn't here to be controlled. The second Uncle Sam tries to contain him, he breaks free by being his loud, aggressive self and does the very thing they don't want him to do. And then to top it all off, Kendrick ends his Super Bowl performance with the song TV Off, which quite literally means turn the damn TV off.
Turn this TV off, turn this.
I think there are two major layers to why Kendrick chose to end this performance with this song. First of all, it's definitely a universal message to everyone. In a world where people are constantly fed media narratives, propaganda, and distractions, Kendrick is telling the audience to wake up. The Super Bowl is one of the biggest spectacles in America. Corporations spend billions just to have a commercial slot because they know the whole world is watching. The game, the halftime show, the ads, it's all a distraction from real life issues that don't go away once the TV is off. Kendrick ending with TV off could be him saying, enough with the distractions. Think for yourself. And then the other half of the message is a message to Black America. The media has historically controlled the narrative about black people, whether through the news, entertainment, or politics, or the entertainment industry. The way black artists, athletes, and leaders are portrayed is often filtered through a lens of control, only showing what fits the agenda. So when Kendrick closes off his performance with TV Off, it's his way of telling Black America to stop letting the media dictate their reality. Don't let America decide who your heroes are. Don't let the system control the narrative. Kendrick was clearly sending a message with this performance, and I can't believe there are people who thought this was just a regular halftime show, but then again, it makes sense. The masses only see what's on the surface. That's how it's always been. Most people just saw a high energy performance, a few viral moments, and some controversy, but if you've been following Kendrick's career, you already know that this man never does anything without a purpose, and that's why I respect him so much. You can't hear me break all this down and still think it was just about entertainment. Love him or hate him, Kendrick has always been about the message. He's never been the type to chase clout or drop music just for the sake of it. Every time he speaks, he's saying something, and this performance was just another example of that. And this is exactly why I'm so happy he's having this moment, because we finally have an artist on the biggest stage in America who's as authentic as an artist can possibly be. From mixtape Kendrick to Super Bowl Kendrick, I've been following this guy since he first came in the game. Sounded like Lil Wayne back when he was still, Lil K Dot, rapping over other people's beats and finding his voice. So to see him evolve from that young kid from Compton to a cultural icon who's using the Super Bowl as a statement, that's iconic and legendary. Honestly, it's great. And what makes it even greater is how much he's able to say with so little. And this is what separates Kendrick from everyone else. He doesn't just tell you, he shows you. Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam, the system controlling black artists, the dancers dressed in white, possible reference to America and white supremacy, cutting off Uncle Sam before Not Like Us, defying the system in real time, ending with TV off, the final statement, wake up, stop being distracted. Every single moment was intentional. This wasn't just a performance, guys. This was a cultural moment right here. But I'm, of course, just one man with one perspective and one voice, which is why I want to hear what you guys have to say about this entire.
Shout out to Blackie Speaks. And, of course, man, I think it would be sweet if we were able to invite Kendrick Lamar to come on and talk with us about some of his content, some of his music, and really break into some of the very things that this last video has been dealing with. So if you guys are friends with Kendrick, go ahead and tag him up, and we'll try to get him here on Skiba News Nation. But,
yeah, that'd be awesome.
With that said, yeah, dude, it would be so sweet. And nothing's impossible. You just merely ask, right? Mm-hmm. So let's look here at this next clip, which encapsulates the deception and the vitriol of Democratic voters, specifically black voters, right, that are kind of jumping on the Trump train because they see exactly what trick has been pulled through the Democratic corruption swamp / whatever. Check this video out.
This political party, the Democratic Party, have lied to us about everything. They've lied about being the party of the middle class. They've lied about being the party. They've lied about being the party that wants to help poor people. Okay? What the last several weeks have proven to us all is that this is a cadre of criminals and losers and spoiled children of affluent parents who were more concerned about looking good than actually doing good. These are people who were more concerned about looking like they were doing something for the American people than actually doing things for the American people. And that's why I'm so angry. Because this party lied to me while stealing my tax dollars. The Democratic Party lied to us all while they brought in millions of illegal immigrants for their own political purposes for the last 4 years. 20 to 30 million illegal aliens brought in, and now we come to USAID being probably the largest money laundering operation in American history. Congratulations, Dems. You've outdone even Bernie Madoff. I'm disgusted beyond words. Disgusted with the waste of money. Disgusted with the waste, with the fraud. With the way that you people use color legitimacy, and the way you use black people as fucking mules to get us to push whatever fucking agenda you wanted to. The amount of division you used black people to sow upon the American people, you used us for that. And I will never, ever forgive this political party. The that I've gone through personally. Y'all were supposed to be the party of free speech, the party of women's rights. You have immolated all of those things. And then, as if enough weren't enough, you then decide that you're going to die on the hill of USAID, a government audit. You're trying to prevent a government audit because some of you really are trying to stay out of prison.
Yeah.
We see the game now. Y'all been out here telling us that the game was rigged against certain people. Well, now we found out who the people that were rigging the game were. Congratulations. Y'all are never going to win another political race ever again. Not if I can help it.
Good for him.
Oh, yeah. Good for him. And good for all the people who are seeing through the squirm attempt of this modern political machine. I mean, it's not just Democrats, guys. There's a lot of Republican rhino stuff, like hands in the jar. Oh, man, it is gross.
Well, it's those lifelong politicians.
Exposed.
All of them. They all have. Man. I mean, why else would they attack DOGE and like companies, or not companies, but, things that are going after them? I mean, of course they're going to... get upset if they're deep into it. You know what I mean? It's crazy watching like Maxine Waters go into the education building in DC and like screaming at the top of her lungs like Elon Musk has got to go. It's crazy.
You're right, man. It is crazy, and it is crazy time to be alive. And I there are so many things I've been learning in recent weeks. Just a download of information. I know I have some family members who are in the Catholic Church. They are going through an asceticism of removing television from their life. So I'm kind of curious if it's only that group, but if it's a wider spread thing, and the Catholic Church as a whole, which has many constituents, right, are all encouraging their family and friends to, engage in an asceticism of media. It's literally people are turning the TV off, and they're being told by these systems to turn their TV off. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Like, it's a good thing if you turn it off and don't buy the lies of the media. But it's a bad thing if important, life-changing, monumental changes are happening in the world and we're doing this. And so it's very curious to me that Kendrick, at the end of his performance was saying, turn the TV off. And in a way, I agree with him. but then in a way I disagree with them. So, I'd love to have that conversation. But let's go ahead and look back when Chuck Schumer came after Tucker Carlson for some incendiary comments revolving around J6. Let's check this out.
Last night, arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection. I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers the way Mr. Carlson did last night. I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain.
There's nothing that shameful that has ever appeared on American television in the history of the medium. And so, on the basis of that, the self-evident outrage of showing the public video that it paid for and has a right to see, Chuck Schumer called for the censorship of that video. Any information, and he did not dispute that it was accurate, that damages a storyline his party constructed and used must be squelched. And Schumer was explicit on that point. Because that video contradicted lies told by the Democratic Party, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Chuck Schumer demanded that our bosses pull this show off the air.
Go, Alex.
Chucky Schumer got Tucker Carlson fired for this, and now it's all come out they were running the January 6th attacks. I was there and tried to stop it. So imagine how scared he is now that all this is coming out, and now Trump has sent investigators. They've taken over the FBI headquarters. All this information about the feds ran the January 6th attack is about to all come out very soon. I can tell you that from high-level sources. So Trump is on maximum offense. We're in maximum danger point right now, though, because we've already beaten them. Their only move is to try to just turn the lights off, shut off the computer systems or something. So, and they're telegraphing they're going to do that, or accelerate into full nuclear war. So this is history. Every minute counts right now. Here's part of the newscast that got him fired, and then we're going to go to break, come back with Victor Boot.
Democratic leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, is not asking why. Instead, Chuck Schumer went on the Senate floor today to explode and to say that showing that video, evidence of wrongdoing by the federal government, including the security forces, the police department that Nancy Pelosi personally controlled, letting the public see any of that is a threat to democracy. Watch.
Last night, millions of Americans tuned in to one of the most shameful hours we have ever seen on cable television. Fox News host Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection. I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers the way Mr. Carlson did last night. I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain.
There's nothing that shameful that has ever appeared on American television in the history of the medium. And so, on the basis of that, the self-evident outrage of showing the public video that it paid for and has a right to see, Chuck Schumer called for the censorship of that video. Any information, and he did not dispute that it was accurate, that damages a storyline his party constructed and used must be squelched. And Schumer was explicit on that point. Because that video contradicted lies told by the Democratic Party, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Chuck Schumer demanded that our bosses pull this show off the air.
He's going to come back tonight with another segment. Fox News should tell him not to. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, tell Carlson not to run a second segment of lies. I urge Fox News to order Carlson to cease propagating the big lie on his network and to level with their viewers about the truth behind the efforts to mislead the public. Conduct like theirs is just asking for another January 6th to happen.
It's a threat to democracy. Pull him off the air. A couple of obvious observations. You don't often see the Senate Majority Leader openly call for censorship on the floor of the Senate, as if that was totally normal and didn't contradict the spirit and the letter of the First Amendment, but of course it does. But what's really happening here, what you're seeing is hysteria, the overstatement, the crazed hyperbole, the red in the face anger. What is that? Well, it's not outrage. Of course, it's fear. It's panic. Those videos, which we did not retouch, which we brought to you after running everyone by the Capitol Police to make certain that we didn't imperil anybody. We told you that last night. Those videos touch a nerve because they're a threat to the lies that Chuck Schumer has been telling for the last 26 months, and not just Chuck Schumer. We should also tell you that Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, was joined in this outrage by the Senate Minority Leader.
All right, we're going to go to break. We're going to post the full report to X, but that's one of the things that got him fired. Imagine if they were so panicked then. You think they're panicked now?
Host Tucker Carlson ran a...
Oh, boy. You think they were panicked then, don't you think they're panicked now, right? Well, there's a reason I shared a January 6th clip about Tucker Carlson, everybody. Check this out. How the tables have turned. The turntables have tabled, if you know what I mean. Check this out.
Well, you go ahead and desecrate our Constitution, or you look at the laws that have been passed into law and say, never mind, we'll just ignore that. Instead, we are going to be in your face, we are going to be on your asses, and we are going to make sure, you understand what democracy looks like.
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
Absolutely not.
So some of these,
thanks for the question.
Some elected Democrats are so steamed about DOGE. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver says we are at war. Ilhan Omar says we might actually see somebody get killed. And Chris Van Hollen says we have to fight this in the Congress. We have to fight this in the streets. So what now?
And may I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here. And for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
They are raiding the government, attempting to steal taxpayer money.
Oh, it's taxpayer money.
That's what the situation
that they stole
at the Treasury Department is all about. We will introduce
Look who it is.
the Stop the Steal Act in short order.
Chucky's here.
To prevent unlawful access with respect to the Department of Treasury's payment system connected to people who are trying to steal personal, sensitive, and confidential information.
It's not us.
Total lies. Federal executive order.
Is that a 666 with his hands?
With auditors and forensic experts looking at where the grant money and taxpayer money went. And they're stealing your personal information.
Looks like Alex Jones got rid of his demon of gluttony. He's looking good, man.
Yeah.
Total lies. Total fraud.
Can you explain this reversal and how building and owning Gaza squares with America First foreign policy?
I would reject the premise of your question that this forces the United States to be entangled in conflicts abroad. The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is going to work with our partners in the region to reconstruct this region. And let me just take a step back here, because this is an out-of-the-box idea That's who President Trump is. That's why the American people elected him. And his goal is lasting peace in the Middle East for all people in the region. And as I said in my opening remarks, we've had the same people pushing the same solutions to this problem for decades. And it's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza.
To Trump, it's a war game. He's throwing out ideas to shake things up, and the Democrats go file articles of impeachment over it.
He did not rule out American troops in Gaza last night. Are you doing that now?
I am saying that the president has not committed to that just yet. He has not made that commitment, and you know that.
And on the foreign partners, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Saudis have already panned this plan. What foreign partners, if any, have expressed any interest in being part of it?
Well, the president has said he's been socialing this idea for quite some time. He's been thinking about this. He said in his remarks last night, this was not a decision or an announcement that he takes lightly. And the president has already spoken to the president.
Look how many of his other proposals they say aren't going to work, and a day later go through. Of course, this is a big one. This is a tough one.
Abdullah next week. He spoke with the King of Bahrain. He spoke with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and he has made it very clear. He's been very vocal. He expects our partners in the region, particularly Egypt and Jordan, to accept Palestinian refugees temporarily so that we can rebuild their home. I'd like to show you some images of Gaza that were taken. Fox News aired this. I mean, that is, as they put it, an apocalyptic scene in Gaza. This is an uninhabitable place for human beings. Do you really think that families can live their dream in a region that looks like this, with no running water, no electricity? And the special envoy to the president, Steve Witkoff, recently traveled to Gaza, as you all know. And he came back with images that he showed the president of the dire situation here. And the president made this decision with a humanitarian heart for all people in the region. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
Absolutely not.
So,
thanks for the question.
Some elected Democrats are so steamed about DOGE. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver says we are at war. Ilhan Omar says we might actually see somebody get killed. And Chris Van Hollen says we have to fight this in the Congress. We have to fight this in the streets. So what now?
And may I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here. And for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
It sounds like something that they're most concerned about is DOGE engineers with access to Treasury systems. Can you clarify, do the DOGE engineers have read-only access in these systems, so they are not allowed to write new code? No. They are not, okay. No. And then one more thing. NBC is reporting that some of the illegal immigrants that we've seen rounded up and arrested are not being deported. They're being released with ankle or wrist monitoring devices, or they have to check in on the phone. So is the administration arresting more people than you have room for?
I have seen the reports, and I'm glad you brought it up because we want to address it. There have been a total of 461 illegal aliens. This is of this morning when I got this information from DHS that have been released from custody of the more than 8,000 that have been arrested since President Trump was inaugurated. It's less than 6%, and there are reasons for their release. Some of the factors include a lack of significant likelihood of removal in the foreseeable future, lack of detention availability, which is something this president and this administration has been incredibly vocal about. We are doing doing everything we can to deport and detain illegal immigrants, but we need Congress's help to increase funding for Border Patrol and for ICE to increase detention capability in our facilities. And then other serious medical conditions have also been the reasons for some of the release of these individuals. But none of them have final deportation orders. Many of them are probably contesting their immigration status. I'd refer you to DHS.
Absolutely. We're 15 days in. Trump's doing a great job. But let's just address what she was just talking about. She's talking about Representative Jasmine Crockett. Imagine if Republicans talked like this. Here it is.
We are not going to sit around while you go ahead and desecrate our Constitution, or you look at the laws that have been passed into law and say, never mind, we'll just ignore that. Instead, we are going to be in your face, we are going to be on your asses, and we are going to make sure, you understand what democracy looks like.
Now let's shift gears into what she was also talking about. The hoax that people are grabbing Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that they're giving it to Chinese hackers, that all this is happening. No, they're just cutting off the billions that was going to Reuters and Politico and the New York Times. Let me read it to you again from the document. For active social engineering, ASED, large-scale social deception. Oh, and this. Clinton Haiti U.S. aid ties come back to haunt. You mean smuggling tens of thousands of kids out? The head of her foundation going to prison for child trafficking? I mean, they're scared, folks. That's why they're unhinged. That's why they've surrounded the Treasury and USAID and are screaming, we're going to get you. Shut down Congress, shut down the Senate, don't confirm his people, because they've been caught. Already what's come out will destroy them. They'll all be indicted. It's open and shut. Act Blue didn't even hide billions, the vast majority of it totally illegal from Europe.
We're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's DOGE, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which is shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I say we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time. We want to weed out the corruption. And it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that. Well, so maybe we have to look at the judges, because that's a very serious, I think it's a very serious violation. I'll ask Elon Musk to say a few words, and we'll take some questions. Elon, go ahead.
Sure. So at a high level, you say, what is the goal of DOGE, and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, FX, we would have to, if you sorry, so tell you gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there aren't some good, there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that's responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking, because we spend a lot of money on defense. But and if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
right.
et cetera?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that, there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, if you look at, say, Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation. It can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical, I think. It's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's the case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it.
Credit cards, not even using people's identities they stole. That was part of it. You go knock on the door, hundreds of people. No, I never gave money. I live in a trailer. I didn't give $100,000 this year. The Democrats, what are you talking about? Well, they're using your Social Security number to do it, Act Blue. I mean, they're just running around like Tasmanian devils, robbing and stealing and destabilizing because they want to rob the country with Cloward and Piven and then collapse it. They destroy us, and then they bring in total tyranny once we collapse. And now we've come into the government, the American people, and said, we're not going with that plan. Open borders, child trafficking, all this crap. Unbelievable. Let's play Hakeem Jeffries lying to the public. I mean, we need to have the press secretary saying, this is a hoax. The same people that lie to you about everything else are lying to you again. They're the ones that were bankrupting the country. They're the ones that have us in the verge of fiscal collapse. Trump's got to grow us out of this, and we've got the numbers. We can do it. But these criminals have to stop. Here's Hakeem Jeffries.
They've done nothing as it relates to lowering the high cost of living.
15 days in.
At the same time, they are raiding the government, attempting to steal taxpayer money.
Oh, it's taxpayer money.
That's what the situation
that they stole
at the Treasury Department is all about. We will introduce the Stop the Steal Act in short order to prevent unlawful access with respect to the Department of Treasury's payment system connected to people who are trying to steal personal, sensitive, and confidential information.
Total lies. federal executive order with auditors and forensic experts looking at where the grant money and taxpayer money went. And they're stealing your personal information. Total lies, total fraud, total desperation. I mean, here's just one of them. Did you know that over $100 billion in COVID payments was stolen by professional foreign fraudster ring, which the globalists set up? COVID-era paycheck protection program was defrauded at an incredible scale. People received PPP loans for total nonsense at stunning rates in Europe. It has all the documents. Yeah, they don't want you to know about that. And I've got Elizabeth Warren really goes into the fear-mongering. And we got Maxine Waters and all of it. And then I want to get into what's happening at the CIA, the DOJ with DOGE. I mean, wow. Trump is really impressing. This is a real revolution, folks.
And they're received quickly and accurately. Also, another crazy thing. So, you know, one of the things is like we're trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this obviously there needs to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay, well, let's if people can retire, you know, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we're told this is actually I think a great anecdote because we're told that the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, you know, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think, you know, that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity? Is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles, and so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet, brother. So
Your
Your
detractors, Mr. Musk,
what?
including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The public voted. We have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. Who won the House, who won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, that, you know, people, they don't get what they voted for. But in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are, in effect, policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there's accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the DOGE organization. So, you know, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, you know, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself. For instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president, I know, has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, you know, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes. But transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency so you can see everything that's going on. And you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want a an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You get a lot of that. You have a contract that's a three-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big. Yeah. But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months, it's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe. Yeah. It could be corruption. It could be deals made on both sides, where I guess the money he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts, so he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military, a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings. And he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million, $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants, all illegal, I believe.
And they're being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Mr. Moss, can I ask a question?
Well, if I may, sort of just going for the president's comments, at a high level, okay, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with the support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build. And if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%. And that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So everyone's the mortgage, the car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop. That's a fantastic scenario for the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same, and their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped. How great is that for the average American?
We had no idea we were going to find this much. And it's open. It's not like complicated. It's simple stuff. It's like, a lot of work. Yeah. You can't believe it. A lot of work, a lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere maybe $500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're talking about. Normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good. Yeah. And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. The public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on. Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOGE cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the plan?
I really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence? Why would that happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda, will you abide by that ruling? Will you comply?
Well, I always abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum, and it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books. If a person's crooked and they get caught, other people see that, and all of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So, yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and we'll appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States and taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings that are operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that.
Mr. Musk,
And this is big numbers. We're talking about $100 to $200 billion a year. Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct this statement? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. If I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. If it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Mr. Musk, can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads as you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with agency heads, yeah, so there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that this is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, you want us to do this? Then we'll do it.
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention. Yes, correct. And we are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly.
So, do you see it as a worthy cause, USAID?
I think that there's some worthy things, but overall, if you say what is the bang for the buck, I would say it was not very good. And there was far too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious and do not stand the light of day.
I just have to follow up to the Pentagon contracts. If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is that a conflict of interest?
Are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
The president said the other day that you might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills. Or,
you also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, really, the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting. Sorry for this. Although my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears. So, so it's been hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. The stuff we're doing with the Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So, for example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? Ever? Really? And we want to, just in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. And once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization. If a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, we should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. Like if it's quite hard to get on that payment, the do not pay list, it means that this is someone that is like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters, that kind of thing. We should not pay them. But currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Many transactions. And by the way, hundreds, thousands of transactions like that. We have a big team. And for the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing, namely make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent. But we're looking at just, when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas. But the USAID is really corrupt. Out there, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if
Wow, guys, I hope people can realize that media is the modern wizards of the age we live in. And the way that they use their word craft to contort and twist the understanding, the vision of humanity and blind or reveal to us is truly a type of like spelling, right? And so like it's just insane to see the flip of a switch that is causing this mechanism to just, you know, polarize in a really interesting way. And I wanted everybody to see a man who stood up for truth, and he called out a lot of things long ago. He's now passed away. And I'm not referring to Rob Skiba, but he is definitely somebody you should check out if you've not. But this is the man, Rush Limbaugh, calling out way back in 1993. He was way ahead of the curve, guys. Check out good old Rush and what he saw coming.
These ribbons. I care more than any of you about anything. And these ribbons say so. I want you people sitting at home and you people in the audience, look down at your lapel right now. I want you to do this. Put the camera back on me. Do this. When you look down, what do you see? You don't see anything because you're not wearing any ribbons. It means you're a bigot. It means you're a racist. It means you're a sexist. It means you're a homophobe. It probably means you're a white guy. It probably means you're a European. And you alone are responsible for all the ills of America. But I'm not, because I'm wearing these ribbons. I care more than you. Because I'm wearing these.
And in a comedic way too, Jeremiah. I mean, I remember growing up, my dad and grandfather were obsessed with listening to Rush Limbaugh, and I hope we can emulate to a small inkling of the impact he had on, you know, the thinking minds of this generation. I know he was honored by Donald Trump himself at his last State of the Union address before he left office the first term. But what are your thoughts on good old Rush?
Well, I remember hearing him in the car when I was younger, but one kind of funny fact that, you know, some people think he's Jim Morrison. And so when I did the Jim Morrison thing, they were like, "Oh, you mean Rush Limbaugh?" And I was like, and I was talking about, you know, Jim Morrison's death, and I was like, well, that would mean that he's dead if it was Rush, you know. But yeah, I think he was really ahead of his time.
Yeah, it's really cool to see people that saw what was on the horizon. And prophecy is 20/20 in hindsight. If you really think about it, prophecy is more like looking back and be like, dang, you know, that guy was on, you know, on another level that we definitely didn't see in that day and age. And you know, I wanted to get into another topic here, which is very important. You know, I think balancing the political, we have to have the spiritual and the inward work, because it doesn't matter what's happening out in the world if we're still fighting a battle in here and individually with just, you know, life is, you know, hard, man, and it is so hard to stay focused. And so I wanted to play these two videos that I hope will be an encouragement to all of us and to our community. So check this out.
Allowing demons in through everything that you're watching. The eye is the window to the soul. You're watching little girls dance on TikTok and nasty things every day, and you're wondering why you're having all these unwanted thoughts. Your eye is a portal. If your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. This is what they want. They want us to be addicted to our phones. If they have our eyes, they have access to our souls. How do I keep my eyes good? Hebrews 12:12. By keeping your eye on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. The Bible says that everything of the world, the lusts of the flesh, the lusts of the eyes, come not from the Father, but from the world. And we all should know that if we love the world, the love of the Father is not in us. You're poisoning your soul by allowing demons in through everything that you're watching.
What can she do that I can't do? Come on. You got it.
You to come to church but still live in that sin. If he can get you to come to church but still listen to that worldly music, but still sleep around, then he's absolutely fine with it because he knows that a lukewarm Christian isn't actually a Christian at all. You can claim to know Jesus and live like the devil, but Jesus will tell you, depart from me, I never knew you. Many will be standing outside the door of heaven screaming, Lord, Lord, let me in. I followed you. These people call him Lord, and he says, I don't know where you came from, I never knew you. But Dennis, doesn't God know everyone? Doesn't he know every single hair on your head? Here's what Jesus was saying, I don't know where you're coming from calling me Lord, but you don't live like I'm your Lord. Where are you coming from acting like I'm your Lord? You've made me your Savior, but not your Lord. You're of your father, the devil. You say that you're a Christian, but have no idea who I am, have no part in me, and do not know the one that sent me. See, the world is preaching Jesus as Savior. Just believe in Jesus, but Jesus isn't the master and Lord of your life. Judas is proof that you can sit in church but still become the devil. Matter of fact, the devil doesn't really care if you come to church. He doesn't care because if he can just get you to come to church but still live in that sin, if he can get you to come to church but still listen to that worldly music, but still sleep around, then he's absolutely fine with it because he knows that a lukewarm Christian isn't actually a Christian at all. You can claim to know Jesus and live like the devil, but Jesus will tell you, depart from me, I never knew you. Many will be standing outside the door of heaven screaming, Lord, Lord, let me in. I followed you. These people call him Lord, and he says, I don't know where you came from, I never knew you. But Dennis, doesn't God know everyone? Doesn't he know every single hair on your head? Here's what Jesus was saying, I don't know where you're coming from calling me Lord, but you don't live like I'm your Lord.
Okay, so obviously heavy words, right? Depart from me, I never knew you. Man, it's a serious thing. But that's why it's so important to not get so buckled up in the deceptions of the world, so buckled up by all of the things we're trying to do in our day-to-day life that we don't work on this, the heart, right? Your heart, our heart, right? That's the most important thing. Not this news, not all these things. It's this thing in your chest. And so, yeah, hey, some of that same language, shameless plug, check out my new song, Procrastinating Prophets. Have Sincere for Yah quoting those very verses. But with that said, let's carry on to just a normal day in 2025. It's terrible, but it's almost like a regular scene that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. We're seeing helicopters crash into airplanes, which, by the way, might have turned out to be, a DEI, woman who had some issues with the incoming administration and decided to, fly a little bit out of her normal area. Not only that, you have this, these scenes that we're seeing come about all across the United States. The one you saw there of the flight that crashed with medical equipment that, just looks like something out of an apocalyptic scene. Very shocking. And I know there's a lot to be worried about and fearful, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid as these things come on the world. And I do have a question, though. Now that RFK and the new healthy, proactive golden age has started, when are we going to see, chemtrails start to be shut down, right? There's a contrail, and that there next to it's a chemtrail. All right, so obviously I have some big requests of the current administration. You guys are turning a new leaf or moving us from all these climate accords and the new Green Deals and all that. Stop spraying your freaking people. Like, the heavens are still being crisscrossed in chemtrails and whatnot. And if you guys don't believe in chemtrails yet, just look into some of the things that have come out from Saudi Arabia and China regarding weather modification. I mean, it was even detailed in the Paris Climate Accords. And we have videos like this. Check this out.
What matters is our plan. No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy.
For you.
Who are you?
It doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan. No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy.
For you.
Okay, I mean, okay, so make America healthy again, right? Well, I'm not going to stop trumpeting the need for them to stop that crap until, you know, they actually do. And then I'll say, truly, the American government is trying to make America healthy again. Because I never gave permission to any of my representatives to spray crap over the garden and over my house and seed the clouds with barium and aluminum and whatever. You know, what are the long-term health effects as that precipitates and ends up in our water supply and in our food and in our ground and in our bodies and in the water that we shower with? Oh my gosh, like it is, I know it's still going on because people are still reporting chemtrails and such. So, you know, I know I'm fired up, y'all. So let's go ahead and watch a clip to calm everybody down. It's a man walking a robot dog in New York City. Check this out. What do you think about that, Opa? Jeremiah, what do you got? I mean, robot dogs, they don't poop. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a crazier video of a robot person walking a robot dog. And I mean, what's the point of having a robot dog? Can he fetch? He doesn't have a mouth. Can't bring you back anything. And I'm offended that there are no robot cats. And that's my biggest complaint.
They're too hard to program.
Yeah, that's a funny line there, Opa. Robot cats don't exist because they're simply too hard to program. Oh man. Here's some other interesting news that I caught. Apparently some black oxygen or dark oxygen has been found. Now, I'd love to hear if anybody can validate this with some scientific resources. So please leave them in the comments below this video. But check out this special report brought to you by TikTok.
This dark oxygen was just found at the bottom of the ocean. Here's the deal. Some of these seafloor rocks are pulling off some weird shit. They're producing oxygen through a chemical reaction with no sunlight needed. Like, excuse me, what? Think about that. Oxygen produced in total darkness. I mean, this could change our understanding of life. What's even crazier is researchers think that this process might be happening on other moons and other planets too. And I've been waiting for this moment. So what do you think about this new dark oxygen mystery? I mean, could the secret to life on Earth be deeper than we thought?
Hey, for years, I wish they'd stop spending money on space exploration and actually investigate what's beneath our oceans and what mysteries this realm actually has to uncover. Why are we spending billions on space? Think about it. Space is the vacancy of substance. So when we spend billions on nothing, it's like a deep void we just cast our taxpayer money into. You know, anyways, yeah, dude, that's really cool. I hope anybody who has further information on dark oxygen can share more. It really was intriguing to me. All right. Well, what do you think about some of these clips, Jeremiah?
I think it was very interesting. I've never heard of dark oxygen, but I agree with you that they should definitely investigate the ocean a lot more. There was a fish, I don't know what it's called. Maybe you guys know what it's called. But it's the one in Finding Nemo that it's like a big fish, and the little thing, and crazy teeth, and it almost surfaced. It was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. So whatever that's called.
I always thought they were ugly fish.
Oh yeah, it was the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
Cool. Well, that was all my news for this week. If you guys would go check out tribethegame.net. Tribethegame.net. I only have a few copies left, and if you don't jump on there and snag them, I'm going to have given away the very last of the limited edition. So if you want one and you're willing to get on there as of this episode, you might have the chance to get one of the very last one of the 100 first edition copies. But with that said, Jeremiah, thanks so much for listening to our news segment, and that's all, folks.
Thank you, Jake, for another great current news as always. Now a quick look at the Babylon Rising bookstore.
Check out our new and improved BabylonRisingBooks.com, where you can get Rob Skiba's books, bundles, DVDs, DVD-ROMs, videos, and so much more. You can even get Sheila and Jeremiah's books, so check it out now.
It's about that time for an all-new Opus Corner. Take it away, Opa.
Der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
The strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. These are the kinds of subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley challenged us to believe it or not.
Believe it or not, you. Wally, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
Believe it!
You're a loony.
Pointy jester shoes were what all the fancy gentlemen wore in the 1400s. Believe it or not. In the early 1900s, cigars were common carnival prices, giving rise to the phrase, close but no cigar, for those who almost won. Believe it or not. On April 1st, 2015, the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum displayed Wonder Woman's invisible jet for only one day. Believe it or not. The first roller coaster in the United States opened in Coney Island, New York in 1884 and had a top speed of just 6 miles per hour. Ooh. Believe it or not. Scientists can turn peanut butter into diamonds because of the high volume of carbon. Believe it or not. It's possible to win Monopoly in just 4 turns. Believe it or not. Because atoms repel each other, you are never really touching anything. Believe it or not. Parts of Canada have lower gravity. Believe it or not. In early Roman calendars, the first month of the year was March. Believe it or not. The opposite of warmth is coolth. Believe it or not. Watermelons are berries. Believe it or not.
One big berry.
In the early 1300s, the word nice meant foolish. Believe it
Nice.
or not. Sharks are older than dinosaurs, insects, and even trees. Believe it or not. In 1925, one of the first in-flight movies was a silent film accompanied by a live orchestra playing on the ground with music broadcast to the audience by radio. Believe it or not. The British government once considered bagpipes to be an instrument of war. Believe it or not. There are 3 signs of old age: loss of memory, I forgot the other 2. Old age is when broadness of the mind and narrowness of the waist change places. Television, the device that brings into your living room characters you would never allow in your living room. My doctor said I look like $1 million, green and wrinkled. Heard about the young deaf boy who used sign language? One day he told his mother a dirty joke, and she washed his hands out with soap. I don't pick on politicians. They ain't done nothing.
Except for Trump.
A fellow told me he was going to hang glider school. He said, I've been going for 3 months. I said, how many successful jumps do you need to make it before you graduate? He said, all of them. I was arrested for lip-syncing karaoke. Why do they call it rush hour when nothing moves?
Good point.
The Statue of Liberty is no longer saying, give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses. She's got a bat and yelling, you want a piece of me? If it's the psychic network, why do they need a phone number?
Good point.
Cricket is basically baseball on Valium. She's got her looks from her father. He's a plastic surgeon. All people are born alike, except Republicans and Democrats. What a dog I've got. His favorite bone is in my arm. Yes, it's my cousin. What's his name? John Doe. Wait, I thought you knew him. Wait, they have belly rubs in first class? Never mind my driving. How is your driving? Oh, a little defensive, are we? Now that the shoe is on the other foot. Well, boo-dee-hoo-hoo. Slowest moving service ever. Last time I call U-Haul. In the stadiums of ancient Rome, the most feared trial was the rub your stomach and pat your head at the same time event. Suddenly, Father Schnober was not sure whether he really should have bought the new crucifix at IKEA. Bourbon Street, 50,000 BC. Bud's Eraser Shop. No sale to minors. Huh, just heft that baby in your arms a little. I guarantee you, whether they're drawn in ink or pencil, that sucker will wipe out any characters that come around. The rooster stared back at me, his power and confidence almost overwhelming. Down below, a female paused warily at the coop's entrance. I kept the camera running. They were beautiful, these chickens in the mist. Until finally being replaced by the more popular and deadly cousin, the Bowie spoon was often used to settle disputes in the Old West. Air spare, air spare. Knowing that their 28-year-old son was planning to move back home, Phil and Gretchen Crawford hired professional actors to help them out. The Crawfords? No, I'm sorry. They moved to Iceland 3 months ago. This one's called She Only Loves Me in the Morning. 3.14. Huh. Please tell me that's not really your pen. It's obvious your parents don't think I'm good enough for you. At Maneaters Anonymous. My name is Elmo. Well, it all started rather innocently. Killing socially, you know. A game warden here, a tourist there, impressing the other guys, you know. But then, I just couldn't stop. Sometimes I've even stashed an extra one in the crotch of a tree. At the Craft Singles Bar. Hi, I'm Kobe. I think I'm kind of fondue of you. I'm Jack. You and I would look Goda together. Oh, so cheesy. Stubborn dachshund tricks. Fetch, sit, roll, shake, come, stay. Why, yes, we do have 2 children who won't eat their vegetables. You know, there's really nothing scarier than a clownfish. We can't absolutely be certain until we run some tests, but your initial blood work indicates that you may have a large spear through the right shoulder. Uses for fruitcake, number 183. Put it halfway up your bird feeder to keep squirrels away. Bob's job at Lockheed was everything he ever dreamed. Airplane kit. And now, can dogs really talk? We found one who's willing to try, right after this message. See the ball. The ball is red. Parents of a lazy river. Why don't you get a job? You want to be a tributary your whole life? At least your friends all fled in the summer. You're not important enough for the whole world to be out to get you. No snow days for you. Out bird watching today and got this great shot of a falcon resting in the tree. I love nature. The weatherman said we got 2 feet of snow. Greenland's army preparing to resist any effort by the U.S. to purchase their country. And that concludes another Opa's Corner.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
Opa's Corner is now available on my own YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you, Opa, for another great Opa's Corner. Now, this week's History's Mysteries is brought to you by JJ and his CBD rub, so check this out.
Finally here at a very special location. Skiba News Nation has had a long-time sponsor, and I'm happy to be here in person at JJ's CBD Hemp Shop. What's up, bro?
Hey, welcome to Family Times Apothecary. Started a brick and mortar. I do everything myself and grow all the hemp that I make in my rub, and from start to finish, farm to bottle.
Let's go get one of JJ's special drinks.
The best. Small batch kombucha, lemonade, or apple cider drinks that we mix with our CBD. We have water-soluble drinks where you can have a drink and not have to have alcohol in it and have a good time.
Now guys, go visit JJ Shop if you're up here in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin.
Health advocacy line that have a specialist here at 920-219-9169. You guys want to call, we can address your ailments and I can recommend things to help you out. And that would be great. Look Look forward to hearing from you guys.
There it is. So this week for History's Mysteries, we're going to be talking about something very interesting, and I've known about it for quite a while. It's the mystery of Havana Syndrome. And you might be asking, what is Havana Syndrome if you don't know? The Havana Syndrome is a group of strange symptoms reported by the U.S. diplomats and staff in 2016 in Havana, Cuba. So let's learn more about it in this first clip. So check this out.
So you're a country like China or Russia. You obviously view America as the evil enemy, and your goal is to crush them to become the next world superpower. Back in the good old days, you would simply invade them and then kill their leaders. Once you eliminated their leaders, you were free to pillage their resources, do stuff to their women that we can't talk about without getting demonetized. Then you would turn their population into your servants, and then boom, life would be good. The problem is, today things are a little different. For one, America's military would simply crush you. They spend the most, they have the most combat experience in the world. Many people in America have guns. They have the latest and greatest weapons, 5th generation fighter jets, the list goes on. So fighting them head on would be foolish. On top of that, today we have to consider things like optics. Although we're still the exact same savage humans we were 1,000 years ago, today things have to look just, fair, civil. Just look at how Russia invaded Ukraine. Optically, Putin looks like an evil bully picking on a defenseless country. So the public rallies behind Ukraine. They cheer on sanctions, they cheer on the seizure of yachts belonging to Russian oligarchs, and so on. This is not what we want. But what if I told you there was a much subtler, much more pernicious form of warfare that allows us to achieve the same goal? Remember, we want to take out the leaders of the empire you're looking to destroy. We can achieve that same goal without outright invading them, without nasty public assassinations, without throwing the first punch, without looking like the bad guy. Enter microwave weapons. If we had some sort of energy weapon that was able to direct an energy blast that can't be seen by the naked eye at, say, a CIA spy, that would give that CIA spy a traumatic brain injury, he wouldn't be able to work anymore. He would be out of service. He wouldn't be able to spy on you anymore. You would be able to achieve the same effect that you would get from killing a senior CIA officer, but without escalating tensions, without the retaliation, without the overt act of war, without ever leaving a trace. Why? Because gunshot wounds, knife wounds, even poisonings, they're all obvious. You can obviously tell if someone got shot. You can test to see if someone was poisoned. But what was that? You randomly get painful headaches now so you can't go to work anymore? Stop being baby, what's wrong with you? It is invisible. If such an energy weapon like this existed, it would be a terrifying game changer. But lucky for you, it looks like it just might. This is Mark Polymeropoulos, an ex-CIA agent with over 26 years of service under his belt, with many of those years spent chasing down terrorists. In 2015, he was promoted to the head of operations for the CIA in Europe and Eurasia, so he was a very vital guy to the CIA to say the least, which also meant he posed a real threat to powers like Russia and China. And as a part of that position as head of operations for Europe and Eurasia, he was responsible for overseeing the CIA's operations in Russia. The only problem was he knew nothing about Russia.
I was not a Russia expert. I'd never been there, so I did what, even going back to our first part of our conversation, you need some area fam. So I was like, I gotta take a trip to Moscow.
So to prep for his new role, Mark took a short trip to Moscow in 2017 to get a lay of the land. And that's when it happened.
I'm at And I said, hey, son. What kind of difficulties with brain fog? I was actually saying. And it just, this is a really terrible tale of incompetence.
A senior CIA officer managing around 2,000 other CIA personnel under his belt was eliminated as a threat, the equivalent of killing him. He had to retire, all without a bullet ever being fired, all without any of his higher-ups even believing that he was attacked. And that is what we call the art of war. But Mark isn't the only one. In 2016, nearly 20 American personnel stationed in Havana, Cuba, all reported the same experience. They woke up in the middle of the night to a loud piercing sound in one ear, followed by intense nausea and vertigo. It felt like the world was spinning around them. They couldn't keep their balance, their heads started pounding unbearably, some would struggle to see clearly, some were taken out of service, but there was no apparent evidence that they were attacked. All they knew was that something was very, very wrong. And then it spread. It spread to American officials in China, Vietnam, London, and even some officials working in the White House. Dozens of reports turned into hundreds of cases. Hundreds of cases turned into more than 1,000 cases to this day. And the only victims so far have been American diplomats, government officials or their family members, with around half of the victims being exclusively CIA personnel, including a handful of Canadian officials as well. It was such a mystery that a new term was coined for it, Havana Syndrome, but you and I both know what it probably is. This is probably a targeted attack, an act of war, by what a US intelligence panel have guessed as some sort of directed energy, and there are only 3 countries in the world that have gone on record to say that they've dabbled with microwave or energy weapons: the US, China, and Russia.
Now, how creepy is that? Like, I've had vertigo before, and it's not fun at all. Like, it is very not cool. And I can't even imagine with all these other things that are happening to these people. And, you know, some of these side effects or these symptoms are very intense. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this next clip. So
It was rough in the beginning. It was a dark place to be. We were kind of shoved aside and they wanted it to go away. All the dogs started kicking off in the neighborhood, barking, which is very unusual for them all to go in chorus. And then this just loud sound just absolutely filled my room. It felt like my head was slowly starting to get crushed. And then severe ear pain started. So I liken it to if you put a Q-tip too far and you bounce off your eardrum. Well, imagine taking a sharp pencil and just kind of poking that. It was very jarring and painful. And eventually I started blacking out.
His brain injuries left him disabled, essentially retired at the age of 36. A weighted vest helps him balance, his service dog helps with walking, and his loss of vision.
The man in this clip was one of the first people to experience Havana Syndrome in Cuba. That first year, the American government had no clue what was happening to its employees. People were getting deathly ill, suffering life-changing disabilities, and no one could figure out why. Somewhere, something was very, very wrong. Had the Cubans been poisoning US embassy staff? Were they secretly trying to kill high-level American diplomats? Things got so bad that the embassy in Havana was almost shut down because so many people were being withdrawn back to America. It was an unexplainable phenomenon, but one thing was sure, the Cubans were to blame. But then Havana Syndrome started to spread, and that threw the Cuba theory out of the window. Over the next 2 years, Americans in Europe, China, and Russia started experiencing the exact same symptoms. Not even White House employees in America were safe. This is Olivia Troy, an ex-counterterrorism and Homeland Security advisor to Vice President Mike Pence. The first time she experienced Havana Syndrome, she was walking down a set of stairs near the West Wing of the White House.
But it was like this piercing feeling on the side of my head. It was like, I remember it was on the right side of my head, and I got like vertigo. I was unsteady. I felt nauseous. I was somewhat disoriented, and I remember thinking like, okay, you don't fall down the stairs. Like, you've got to find your ground again and steady yourself. It was almost like I couldn't really process. It was like a paralyzing panic attack. I've never had that. I've never felt anything like that. And so I thought to myself, do I have a brain tumor out of the blue? Is this what happened? Am I having a stroke?
And she wasn't the only one. In 2020, another White House official experienced the exact same symptoms on those same stairs. Whatever Havana Syndrome was, it was now on American soil. And the more people who got it, the more it started seeming like Havana Syndrome wasn't just a coincidence or a random illness. Instead, it was beginning to look like a set of extremely extremely dangerous, targeted attacks. By 2018, the American government had a serious threat on its hands, and if they were going to fight Havana Syndrome, they were going to have to do some investigating.
Common symptoms include headaches, dizziness, nausea, memory and focus problems, hearing strange sounds or feeling pressure, and vision and balance issues, which all seem terrifying to me. But now for this next clip, we're going to be talking about what might cause it. So check this out.
As soon as Havana Syndrome started spreading away from Cuba, the Cuban government was basically exonerated from all wrongdoing. If the culprit was ever going to be found, investigators would have to start thinking out of the box. So they tested for everything from pesticides to mental illness and still came up with nothing. They were just about to give up when the first viable theory finally hit them: microwaves. Microwaves are used in lots of different things, from cell phones to radios and even radar. But exposure to microwave radiation could also cause all the same symptoms as Havana Syndrome. The weird sound everyone heard just as they started experiencing the other symptoms could be explained by something called microwave hearing, or the Frey effect. The Frey effect occurs when microwaves cause you to hear sounds like ringing, loud noises, and even human voices. Exactly what happens to almost everyone when they're hit with Havana Syndrome. Other symptoms of microwave exposure include headaches, neurological problems, sleep issues, memory loss, and dizziness. With this new theory in mind, researchers took another look at the brain scans of the people affected by Havana Syndrome. This time around, they noticed small details in most of the brain scans that matched what they would expect from someone affected by, what do you know, microwave exposure. Microwave exposure that could be created by a machine small enough to fit in a van. But there are still unanswered questions. If it was a weapon, how could it be so directed as to hit only one person in a building full of people? How could it be that targeted? And who would have such a weapon?
Now, before I get y'all's thoughts on it, I want to play this last clip, and it's about, this has never happened before. That's what I call this clip. So let's check this last clip out. Or this has happened before, sorry.
There's only 3 countries on record that have kind of dabbled in microwave weapons.
Yep.
US, China, Russia.
It was 1996, just 5 years after the fall of the Soviet Union. 2 NSA agents were sent to a hostile country on a short assignment. A few days into their trip, one of the agents woke up in the middle of the night feeling deathly ill. He couldn't move, he felt weak, and his whole body seemed to be overcome by fatigue. In his own words, it felt like he had become, quote, a bowl of jelly, end quote. Eventually, the symptoms went away, but the agent never forgot that strange night. 10 years later, that same agent was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's disease. At just 46 years old, he had developed a brain disorder that left him without control of his body's movements, balance, or coordination. Around the same time, his colleague, who was also on the same mission, was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease too. Both men believed their assignment in 1996 had caused their illness, and when one of them reported it to the NSA, they received a strange reply. Quote, the National Security Agency confirms that there is intelligence information from 2012 associating the hostile country to which Mr. Beck traveled in the late 1990s with a high-powered microwave system weapon that may have the ability to weaken, intimidate, or kill an enemy over time and without leaving evidence, end quote. Here was the NSA confirming that there was intel that some country had a high-powered microwave weapon all the way back in the late 90s. But no matter how much the media pushed, no one would say which country Mr. Beck and the other agent had visited. Luckily, they didn't need to. That's because going back as far as 1953, the American government had known about Russia's interest in using microwaves to disrupt American embassy staff and interfere with their communications. Between 1953 and 1976, over 20 years, a microwave signal was aimed at the American embassy in Moscow from an apartment building around 100 yards away. For years, the American government had tried to keep it a secret. But when the ambassador suddenly became sick and started bleeding from his eyes, the government had to share the information with its employees. So not only had the Russians used microwaves once before to target the US embassy, but there was a good chance that the hostile territory the 2 NSA agents visited in 1996 was either Russia or an ex-Soviet country too. It was starting to look a lot like Russia was a viable suspect. And then Mark Polymeropoulos, the ex-CIA officer we mentioned earlier, visited Moscow in 2017, and that basically sealed the deal. Mark was getting the exact same response from the American government as the US embassy staff in Moscow had more than 50 years earlier. complete denial. According to them, he wasn't experiencing Havana Syndrome. It was something else, something the CIA was definitely not responsible for. And it wasn't just him. Apparently, the CIA had been denying treatment and tests to loads of other employees experiencing the same thing. It got so bad, doctors were warning the CIA that if they kept delaying treatment for these officers, they were going to have to deal with catastrophic consequences. That's how terrified and helpless Havana Syndrome made these decorated CIA officers feel. People who were used to dealing with some of the most high-stress, high-pressure situations imaginable were on the brink of suicide. But no matter how much Mark pushed for his condition to be recognized as Havana Syndrome and for him to get access to treatment, the CIA just wouldn't give in. For the American government, admitting that there might be a powerful invisible weapon being used against American personnel that they don't know about, and the fact that the CIA was neglecting treatment for their employees that were affected, wouldn't look good. So, to the public, the government downplays it. They explain it away. In a recent report, out of the 1,000 cases of Havana Syndrome, the CIA reported that 976 were related to environmental causes or underlying medical issues. Because obviously nearly 1,000 people having the exact same symptoms in a 6-year period is just a coincidence, nothing more. No need to panic here. But hidden in the details were a few cases that they concluded were most likely from directed energy. But behind closed doors, it's a different story. Just 2 years earlier, the Department of Defense put out a contract for a wearable radio frequency weapon exposure detector, a wearable sensor to detect if you've been hit by a radio frequency weapon. That doesn't happen if people in the government don't think this is real.
You know, we know the Russians have this. It is an open source information. The Russians have dabbled in this technology and in these weapons, and they've admitted it. If they're able to take, some of our most experienced officers, off the battlefield in a non-attributable way, it's perfect. Taken.
Yeah. Even though things seem quieter now, today, it looks like Havana Syndrome is here to stay for the foreseeable future. Every couple of days, more US officials and CIA officers come forward with the same symptoms. The Biden administration is even offering some victims between $100,000 and $200,000 in compensation for their suffering. So no matter how badly the CIA wants to downplay Havana Syndrome, it's not going away anytime soon.
So that's all I got about the mysterious, creepy Havana Syndrome. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know that when the government gaslights you into thinking you have all sorts of diseases and this and that they're likely the person behind the big red button making your symptoms in the first place. So it's just, I mean, it reminds me of things like, biowarfare that came through little critters that latch on to you, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Just the different elements of how the government's experiments affect us, I think ties directly into what we've been talking about even this week with, experiments that we have no say over, but are affecting us in our health. And it's just terrible that this amount of license and just ability to experiment and play evil witch doctor has been handed over to these mad geniuses, right? It's shocking.
What about you, Appa?
What I don't understand is when the embassies are being targeted, you can protect yourself by protect all the people in the embassy by basically putting up filters and things all around the building to keep the microwaves from coming in. Now, when they're at the hotels and stuff, they probably can't do that, but at least the embassy should be able to be protected.
Yeah, but that is if they're even recognizing it as a real thing. Seems like they don't even recognize it a lot of the time.
Well, that probably is because we're doing the same thing to them.
Or they're doing it to us as well. Or they have been. I mean, I've had all of those symptoms, but not at the same time. I mean, that's what's crazy about it. It's like, I couldn't imagine having all of those at the same time. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. And for my last clip, please enjoy volume 11 of Please Excuse My Sense of Humor.
Seen an ant carry a leaf. Well, that's what I feel like.
Thanks, buddy. Need one more of these.
I felt like a Spanish, like a Puerto Rican in this hair. I felt Puerto Rican. Y'all know I love me some Puerto Rican. I felt Puerto Rican in this. Rican. Woo.
What is the date today? I completely, Thursday. Yeah. Thursday. I was completely wrong, wasn't I? I had the dates wrong all this time. Did he come on out?
Hey, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them on the pole. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
Are there any drugs in this house?
If there
Put that down for a second.
If there are, you better find them and give them to me immediately. No, they're not.
No drugs in the house right now.
Not that I know about. If I know about them, I'll find them and throw them away. It's not a big deal. Ooh, drugs in the house. Oh, we're all gonna die.
Good morning to the honey bun, sexy little sugar crumb. Good morning to the honey bun, tingling, ling, 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 tingling, ling, 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 tingling, ling, 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 ling.
When I snap my fingers, you're going to forget that you are gay.
I was never gay.
Now that's it.
No. I was never.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who Mate, we just started. When I wake up, well, I know, oh, it's coming back, And I would walk 500 miles and I would just be that man who walk 500.
I expose people to magic. I expose them to something they're never otherwise going to see in their boring, normal lives. And I gave that to them. I may forget about them tomorrow, but they'll live with that memory for the rest of their lives. And that's a gift, man.
One of the women said that she was afraid she might OD. One of the women who was here.
What's that got to do with me?
We welcome you, James Brown. How did all of this trouble begin?
Living in America. There's nothing wrong.
And what are you going to say to your fans when they ask you some questions about it?
I'm going to say I feel good.
It sounds to me as though you're not troubled by any of this at all.
This is a man's world.
Thanks for reminding us of that. James, I have to ask you one serious question here. I understand you already have started divorce proceedings. Does that mean that you're now eligible?
Yes, I'm eligible. I'm single. I want to mingle. Papa's got a brand new bag of living in America.
The women love you when you get out there.
Why is that, ladies?
Well, I'm asking you.
Huh? Because I look
Why do you think
good.
that is? You
I
look
smell
good.
good. I
Yes.
feel good.
And you sing good.
And make love good.
Oh. Well, there we are. We don't have to ask anybody else. We got that from the source. There you are.
Papa's got a brand new bag. It's a man's world.
What's your body count? Whatever you think it is.
3.
Only 3?
That's all.
Only 3?
Only 3.
Okay, what are you thinking it is? What do you think I'm asking?
How many people I killed?
Oh no.
Me? Just hanging around.
Have a favorite feature to use in here?
Yeah.
Something that you think is very cool?
Check this out.
Wow.
So that's pretty neat.
Nathaniel, man, I appreciate all you do for me out here. Gave me a place to stay, man. But this chicken leg playboy's looking too. Oh, but Nathaniel, man, you know, I appreciate you, man. You letting me be your roommate, you know, the little box you set up for me, the meow mix, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate everything you do, man. You're a good individual, man. You know what I'm saying? You taste a little weird, but I love you, man. You know what I'm saying? I love you. Just like I love this drumstick. Hey, but yeah, you know what I'm saying?
So I hope you guys enjoyed this volume 11 of Please Excuse My Sense of Humor. What was you guys' favorite clip?
Oh man, I really liked the cat one. That was hilarious. Like just reaching like he totally know he was like trying to smooze up to his owner.
What about you, Apo?
Obviously, my wiener dog.
Yeah. Well, you guys let me know at home what your favorite clip was, and that's all I got for History's Mysteries. And before we move on to the memes, a word from our good friend Kristen. So check this out. I want to introduce you guys to somebody named Kristen, who's one of the biggest forces behind Skiba News Nation. This is Kristen. She helps us get all the big guests. I understand that you're doing this full time now. So how can people find out how to use your service?
Well, I started Fellow Helper Agency, and you can go to fellowhelperagency.com. And I do any of the behind the scenes, email, getting the interviews, and I do prep work for the shows as well. I do timestamps and moderating.
She is the best with connects. If you like any of our shows, any of our big guests, she's the person to go to. And if you have a channel, definitely go to our website. So go check out fellowhelperagency.com. You got some memes for me, Jake?
Oh yes, I do.
All right, meme me up. Meme me up.
This bird wasn't messing around.
Man, they're just as bad as cats.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Demon bird.
Ow.
All right, so obviously not cats, but doing a lot of the same things. It's almost like they live for the joy of pushing things off of other things. Well, don't worry, Jeremiah. I got a cat clip for us this week as well. All right,
that cat's
very
better
nice.
than that cat's better than Ray Gun. If you get that, let me know in the comments.
Here's another one for us. Did you? Okay, so Jeremiah, this reminds me of when on a trip we both got to see baby raccoons. But did you know that baby skunks sound like this? It's really amazing. Check it out.
sound like little goblins.
Did not know they sounded like that.
Man, I
never got close enough to find out.
I know that guy's ballsy.
Wow, they really work on the eyes. Like, no wonder skunks look like that. If they move around in a pack, it looked like a morphing shadow creature or something.
Skinwalker.
Very interesting. Yeah. Hey, we've solved it. We've solved the case of Skinwalker Ranch. It turned out it was large skunk herds the whole time. Yeah. All right, here's another meme for us. I wonder if I'll slip. I wonder if I'll have school. I wonder if my car will start. The Winter Wonderland.
Yep.
This is an Opa-ism, so forgive me for stealing your format, Opa. I thought it was hilarious. Here is a Elon Musk X post that truly is one of the memes of the decade. It's Chelsea Clinton casually taking home $84 million. Oh my gosh, guys. What a meme. Meme.
It's crazy.
Oh, man. Now, of course, you guys can look that up on X yourselves. Let's carry on to the next picture here. You know, all the people coming after Donald Trump about the immigration stuff, you know, the people now worried about separating families made your grandma die alone in a hospital. Never forget. Never forget. Never forget. That's the same people that are freaking right now because they sold themselves so much to an ideology that they're missing very plain deception. It's just, man, tragic. Check this out. I never finish anything. Really? Yes, I have a black belt in martial arts. But all right. That's for all you dads out there. And check this out. Another meme. Joe Rogan thinks it's pretty wild that a photo from a square structure on Mars was just posted to Reddit. And it is indeed real, allegedly. The image originates from the Mars Global Surveyor Mars Orbital Camera. So, hey, it looks like they had Martian square buildings, and they're able to take pictures of them, allegedly. And, you know, that's not to motivate us to go to Mars and fund Elon Musk's venture, space adventure, that space adventurer who's one day going to rule Mars. You know, no biggie, just a picture of a building on Mars, right? Yeah. Well, check this out. Elon Musk proposes putting the U.S. Treasury on blockchain for full spending transparency. Citizens could track taxpayer dollars in real time. Yeah. That's a meme to the Federal Reserve, if you know what I mean. You know, just the transparency of government funds and what all of this DOGE stuff is representing is a meme in and of itself, ladies and gentlemen. Here, check this out. I thought it was interesting. If you ever think mythology is boring, just remember that Cerberus, the hellhound and guard dog of the underworld, comes from the root Indo-European word Kerberos, which evolved into the Greek word Kerberos, which got changed to Cerberus when it went from Greek to Latin. Kerberos means spotted. That's right. Hades, alleged Lord of the Dead, literally named his pet dog Spot. Oh, man. All right, here's another one. How to save money and have fun as an adult. That's so true. Oh, my gosh. All right, last one. Very important. It's very simple, guys. Two things are for certain that came out from these confirmation hearings. One, those who opposed Bobby Kennedy, right, were owned by Big Pharma. And two, those opposed to Kush Patel, they were on the Epstein client list probably. It's that simple.
Yep.
Oh, man. So, That's all the meme review for this week. If you have some fantastic memes, make sure to send them over to Jake at skibanewsnation.com. And also, lately I've been in a very musical kick. I'd like to start reviewing music and stuff. And if you're interested in sharing music that's truther music, or if it's, music talking about, more than what we get on the radio, if you get my drift, right? Email me at, use the email simplyprodigal@gmail.com with your music suggestions and reviews. And I have an interesting segment I'd like to work on, but make sure to email me your memes once again at jake@skibanewsnation.com, and email me your music at simplyprodigal@gmail.com. All right, guys, that's all the memes for this week. Hope you enjoyed.
All right, Jake, thank you for another great current news and memes as always. Opa, thank you for another great Opa's Corner. I hope you guys enjoyed today's History's Mysteries segment and the episode as a whole. Stay awake, not woke, subscribe, and stay tuned. If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary Ross Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like I don't even want to wake up.